Shalom and welcome to Mitzvah Torah. This year is entitled, May a Woman Borrow a Shofar Without Permission. May a woman borrow a shofar without permission. It's a fascinating shaila. Normally, we should ask, can anyone borrow anything without permission? And the answer is usually a clear no. People's property belongs to the individual owners, and you can't just take things from other people. She'elah, as a joke, to borrow as a joke. I know he doesn't mind. Not a simple assumption at all. Certainly when kids go ahead and pull pranks and take things from each other to give them back, that's gazela, even amanat lachzir. That is not to be done. But now I'm asking, can I borrow? And I assume he won't mind. Normally we don't assume that in the typical case. But when it comes to a mitzvah, we have a beautiful chazak, a beautiful assumption. Nechlel Adam. People are happy for other Jews to do mitzvah with their property. And we assume that the owner doesn't mind. So you come to shul and there's tefillin there, your tefillin are not around, you left it at home, etc. The simple halacha of the Shofar Lulav is you can take his tefillin, fold them up, wrap them up, put it back in its place, obviously. And if he's there, ask him, but he's not there. The owner already died in the early meeting, then now you can't get in touch with him. So there's a chazak, he doesn't mind you use his tefillin. He doesn't mind that you use his talis. It's brought down by shofar. It's brought down by lulav. All these cases is brought down. So we assume that unless you know differently, that there's a chazaka that the owner is happy for you to do a mitzvah with his property. So if that's the case, so then the same thing should apply to a woman who wants to borrow a lulav, a shofar. There's one thing that's tricky. Since this mitzvah of shofar, the mitzvah of lulav is mitzvah say shazman gramitz, time bound, and a woman is exempt. So what is the chazaka? The assumption is the assumption that a person is happy for someone else to fulfill a mitzvah, meaning to fulfill a chiyuv, an obligation with your property. Or you're just happy for someone to do a mitzvah with your property. Now, it sounds almost like the same thing, but it's not. Is it that I'm happy for someone to discharge an obligation or simply to do a mitzvah? So by a man, there's an obligation. By a woman, there's an obligation. Do we assume that I'm happy that they can do a mitzvah? Doesn't matter if she has an obligation or not. This question reached Rav Moshe in the early 60s, so it wasn't openly discussed earlier on. And Rav Moshe says, the Mishnah Berurah says that you could borrow a shofar without permission even to do the extra kolo. From the Torah we do 30, then we do another 30, then we do another 40 to get to 100. At the end, those are extras, those are minhagim. And the Mishnah Berurah says we could do it, you could borrow it. It's not a chiyuv at that point, it's a nice minhag. Rav Moshe also brings in tzitzis. I could borrow someone's talis. Wait a second. I have to put on a talis? I don't have to. It's a nice minhag that we do. That we wear talis for davening. The only time I'm really obligated in tzitzis is when I'm wearing a four-corner garment like we did thousands of years ago. That's not the style anymore. So the minhag, nice minhag to wear talis for davening, and I could borrow someone else's. But why? It's an obligation. So Rav Moshe says so too by a woman. The assumption is Jews are happy to let other Jews do mitzvahs, obligation or not, doesn't make a difference, with their property, and that would apply to a woman as well. That's Rav Moshe's conclusion. Lamaisa, person should just know that sometimes people are very careful about tefillin, especially if you have wet hair in the morning, you take a shower. Person may not want you to put on tefillin when you have wet hair, so you should just examine that and not make a habit out of it, because the poskim do bring some limits down, but that's a separate discussion. L'maaseh, Rav Moshe does say that once there's a mitzvah, then we do assume that a Jew is happy to let someone else mekayim a mitzvah, whether it's obligatory or not, with their property. Shalom.
Shlomo?